People thought I was crazy. Several VPs at the company met with me to tell me what an idiot I was. They were telling me I was committing career suicide. They said stuff like, "You're a technical guy, we need you on technical stuff." They said, "Why would you leave one of the most important parts of the company, Office, to go work on something nobody cares about?" But that was exactly it for me. That was the problem with Office. Everybody cared about Office. So like everything was a fight. Everybody had an opinion about everything. Besides, we had won an Office already. It was like the battle was over, you know? I wanted to run something where I could either succeed or fail on my own. I wanted to go to a place where Microsoft was still far from number one. And also, I felt like if I was going to give up one of my lifelong passions of programming to move into a purely kind of management and business job, I wanted to do it, I should do it in an area where I had a lot of other passion. And really, that was the other big passion in my life, was playing games. I was always playing games ever since there were games. Certainly all the time I worked at Microsoft, I was playing the latest games. So anyway, I ignored all the advice I was getting from all these people, and I said, no, I put my foot down, being stubborn. I want to take this job, so I take the job. So I'm this young guy, 32 or whatever. I'm walking down the street in Tokyo, and I'm just like, this job rocks. This is so great. I mean, you know, I knew from then on that I had made the right decision. That didn't change the fact that I really did not know what I was doing. I mean, you know, once again, I was in way over my head. You know, after the first few weeks, people started coming to me in the group, and they started asking me for money, right? Somebody comes up to me, and they said, we need $3 million for this. I went to my boss. I said, somebody just asked me for $3 million. What do I do? You know, it's like, and she said basically that if it was under a certain amount, it was completely up to me to decide. And if it was over a certain amount, I had to get her approval. It's like, okay, I guess I can do this. I went to my first budget review meeting, and our senior division VP, who, by the way, was one of the people who tried to talk me out of taking the job, started asking me questions like, I see your development expense on the P&L is growing at 12%, but your marketing expense is growing at 18%. Why is that? Now, I had no idea. I mean, I had trouble just keeping up with the lines as he was bouncing around, you know. I was trying to do a job that had a business and marketing component to it. I had nobody to help me, nobody to mentor me. I mean, eventually, my group was put under Robbie Bach, who's a guy with a lot of business and marketing experience. He taught me a lot. But at that time, I was on my own. So I quietly set about trying to grow the games business and tried to make Microsoft one of the leaders in the PC gaming business. The core of the business at that time was Flight Simulator, and the previous head of games had just acquired the makers of Flight Sim, a company called Bruce Artwick Organization, and I got to integrate that new team into our offices in Redmond. Flight Sim was like the cash cow that funded all of our early expansion. Our first big hit came from Ensemble Studios with the release of Age of Empires. And over the next 5 years, we teamed up with more and more of the world's best developers, either striking third-party deals or through acquisition, and we grew the business dramatically. By 1999, we had acquired Ensemble, Axis Software, the makers of Lynx, Fossa Interactive, Jordan Weissman's company, for people who were here last year, the creators of MechWarrior, Crimson Skies. We had Chris Roberts was working with us. We had acquired his company, Digital Anvil. We were working with Chris Taylor to create Dungeon Siege. With the release of Age of Empires 2, The Age of Kings, we were finally starting to make progress toward becoming a leading PC publisher. That was about the time that Seamus Blackley, Kevin Bacchus from the DirectX team walked into my office with this crazy idea. They wanted Microsoft to get into the console business with a plan they originally called the DirectX box. I liked the idea because I'd been interested in getting us into the console space, and the machine that they described was much more like a PC. It had an Intel processor, it had a hard disk, it I thought it would be an easier transition for my group than going to the other existing consoles. So I agreed to lend my support, and we set about trying to push this idea to the highest levels of the company. After months of campaigning, it all came down to a famous meeting that we like to call the Valentine's Day Massacre. So once the project was approved, I found myself once again in way over my head. I had less than 2 years to pull together a first-party launch portfolio for this platform. Considering most games take longer than 2 years to build and the platform would be under development while we were trying to put the games together, it was a challenge. Never mind the fact that my team had never made a console game before, and console games are, somewhat different than PC games. At least that's what everybody thought at the time. We managed to convince Lorne Lanning to switch his company Oddworld from creating a PS2 title to an Xbox title. And with that, we landed our first blow against Sony in the long battle. Some of our best titles came from a few big breaks. One was when we got the chance to work with Bizarre Creations. They had just released a great racing title called Metropolis Street Racer for the Dreamcast, and we thought we could use that to get a head start on developing our own racing franchise. And that's what became Project Gotham Racing. The other big break came when an old friend of mine, Peter Tamte at the Mac game developer Bungie, gave me a call. They were one of the last developers still trying to publish their own games, and they decided that it just wasn't going to work, that they needed to sell the company. Some excitement had been starting to build in the Mac community around a game that they were working on called Halo. After a complicated negotiation, we agreed to buy part of the company, including the part that partially built Halo. We moved the team to Redmond and got them working to finish the game in time for the Xbox launch. We showed our Xbox lineup at E3 in May 2001, but since we were still running on half-speed prototype hardware, the reception was pretty mixed. Halo in particular was questioned. Could a hardcore PC-style shooter be popular on a game console where cartoony games like Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog were the norm? A lot of people in the games press had their doubts. But one of the things that I had struggled with over the years was the divide between marketing and development. Although I had some control over our marketing people, they didn't report to me. They were part of a central organization that reported up to my boss, Robbie Bach. We had a lot of the problems you see still sometimes today with marketing organizations: poor communication, lack of understanding of each other's jobs, lack of mutual respect between marketing and development. To fight this, I began to integrate the marketing and development teams, working with the head of games marketing to get people assigned to teams and projects as early as possible in the process, and to actually seat them among the development teams whenever possible. When the marketing guys became just another part of the team, suddenly the developers understood what the marketing guys did all day, and the marketing guys got a much better understanding of how the developers felt about what they were creating, why they thought it was cool, and when it might actually ship. And things improved dramatically. Xbox launched on November 15th, 2001, just 1 week later than we originally planned. And through a big effort of the people in my group, which is about 1,000 people at this point, we managed to scrape together 6 titles to support the launch, including Halo, Oddworld, Project Gotham Racing. About a year after launch, the responsibility for dealing with all the third parties got moved out of Jay Allard's group and into mine. So in addition to running the first-party portfolio, I was also flying around the world to work with major publishers at Electronic Arts, Activision, Konami, etc. We began planning the successor to Xbox. At the time we called it Xenon, but it's what's now known as Xbox 360. By the end of 2003, I'd had enough. I'd accomplished every goal I ever had for myself in the gaming business. I had a chance to work with all my heroes. My group had released more than 100 games in the 8 years that I ran it, including more than a dozen million-plus sellers. I was proud of what we had accomplished on Xbox, but I wasn't willing to commit another 5 years to doing it all over again for Xbox 360.